Boop, 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 boop. What's up? I'm here with my dog, who's literally always sitting next to me. So on the last two paranormal activities, I've went over stuff that I couldn't really disprove in my house and things that were in another person's house where I watched their dog. This one is going to be about my dog. In my part 4, I'm going to be addressing some things that she kind of is in as well, but this video is basically all the times where it was like directly with her, I guess you could say. My dog is not like the ordinary want to please you, loving on people type dog. She's kind of a sissy dog in a way. I used to have 3 other dogs, Susie, Chester, and Bella. They all had passed away. It became like so empty when you were, used to dealing with 3 dogs, and now there were like none. And a little bit afterwards, my dad found this dog named Lady. She just kind of became the new dog of the household. And I am very grateful for how she has helped us with the grieving process of our other dogs. She's been a very good addition. She's very good at communicating without words, if that makes any sense. She's very expressive. She like stretches, she'll like groan. She's able to communicate being silly without being rough or wrestly, which is different from a lot of dogs that I've seen. The way that she communicates is very different, and it's very precise. You can tell what she wants. When we first got her, she seemed to not like certain areas of the house. It was something that I could understand because she was moved from one house to the next with foster home after foster home before we got her, and she probably just didn't feel comfortable. I mean, I at least took it as like she found her one little space for her sleepover situation. She had it in her mind that she was going to leave and go to another place. That was her life. I kind of understood her in the sense that she just wasn't comfortable in certain areas. She loved my parents' room. She loved this one corner. Then things started to change. It seemed on certain nights she loved certain rooms, and on other nights she wouldn't step foot into it. One of those rooms being my room. The first time she came into my room, she went in there reluctantly to kind of look around, and then she immediately bolted out, and it looked like she was scared. You could see the scared in her eye. I didn't know how to take it. We kind of developed this thing where I figured out what she wanted through trial and error. She likes someone to sit with her. So we developed this thing where I sit here and she sits where I showed you last time, and she's just happy with that. I normally can't sleep at night, so I'll be up and sitting here till like 2 in the morning, either just laying down staring at the ceiling on YouTube doing whatever, and she will just sit next to me. And before I knew that this is what she wanted, I would go to bed and I would sit in my bed. I don't like the fact that I can't sleep, so I try to make it as easy as possible for me to sleep by going into my bed and staring at a wall. She would act as if she was scared. She acted as if I was abandoning her in a sense, and that she was scared to be by herself. And I would leave my door open, and I would, get a doggy bed, and I'd put it in my room right outside where the door is, and it seemed like she just could not go into my room. Like, she knew the door was open, she saw me walk in, she saw that there was a bed, and she would just stand outside of my door. And when I would come out, she would walk a couple feet, look back at me, make sure I was there, walk a couple feet, look back at me until I followed her to this exact same spot and sat down here. That's what she wanted. It seemed like she was really, really scared to go into the room. And for me, I was just kind of like, that's weird. I didn't know why she didn't want to be in my room. I have a lot of paranormal experiences that have happened in my room and have happened in certain rooms that she doesn't like to go into. So I can't prove or disprove anything, but it's just a weird coincidence that whenever something happens that I think might be paranormal, she does not like to be there. This was the normal thing to happen, except for like 2 nights out of the entire time that I've had her. 2 nights she was so freaked out and she didn't want to be in the living room. And I've had some things happening in the living room, which I will say in my part 4, but during those times she did not want to be in the living room. It seemed like whenever something that was slightly paranormal would happen, she would get up, be extremely scared, run, and she would make sure that I was following her until I went into my bedroom and she would stay in my bedroom and she didn't want to leave my bedroom. She would go as far to putting herself in dangerous situations of trying to get on top of the bed where she can't fully reach to get on top of the bed. When I was wanting to do the laundry, I'd have like a huge basket of clothes, and she would sometimes topple over those and try to find a space in the very back of my room to hide. Now, she has the same reaction if somebody is throwing something or if somebody is angry in my household and they are yelling and screaming or doing something like that. She looks at me, and then if I go, she follows me. She's like, yes, yes, yes. And well, she doesn't. She like crawls. But you know what I mean? Like, it was the same kind of fear and the same kind of reaction that she had to those physical things happening that I could understand as to when a little tiny, like, paranormal thing would happen. Or even if there was, like, nothing that had happened, she would just be like, I'm scared, let's go. When I was starting to figure out that she wanted me to sit on the couch, that was when those moments were happening. The moments where she would get extremely scared, put herself in danger, try and get as far as she could from the living room and kitchen. And I had no idea why. And I remember thinking to myself, back to when I was in therapy. When I was in therapy, my therapist asked me if I had invited anything into my household. She had said certain things that started to come into my memory, like, are your dogs and cats flipping out? I don't really think she necessarily believed in them, I'm not entirely sure, but she would ask me those certain questions, and I remember thinking like, oh, my dogs and cats are flipping out. My cats are very spastic. It's not like clear when they're like scared or when they're just like having a moment, but with her, it's very clear. She also would have moments where she literally would be staring in one space for a long time. She did this when there were bugs or something. Like, if I took her out to a park and she saw a bug, she reacts like how I do. She's interested at first, and then when it moves towards her, she goes, ah, no. She'll literally jump and like bark or something and then run away. And it looked kind of like the beginning part of her being interested. Her ears perk up, she's like looking around, find like a certain thing, she'll just stare. She's literally stared at that closet before. Like, just sat in front of it and stared at it to where there was like a foot in between her and the closet. She's sat right there on the floor and she's literally stared at this part of the couch, just staring at it. It would be like a solid like 5 to 10 minutes, and then she would like kind of stop and then like run away. I realize it's kind of a stretch. I haven't communicated with her. I can't exactly tell what she's thinking. It could just be that she's crazy. She's not old enough to get crazy though. Now, all of that back, I've had a couple experiences where she's literally led me to something weird happening. I have written down a time where she took me out of my room at 3 a.m. me to follow her to see something. I remember I had finally gotten to sleep before 2 a.m. She was like scratching on my door. I feel like she kind of knows that I like respond to her more than most humans. She'll go to me to like communicate what she needs. She went to my room and she was like clawing on my door, and like my door is like a weird thing. It has 3 different types of hinges. A couple of those hinges are like kind of what they have on bathroom stall doors that make it close automatically. I did that because my previous dogs, they would try to push their way into my room and then they would get themselves stuck, throw up and like pee and poo, and like they would chew on my stuff. I didn't want them in there. But then my door was pulled off again. Basically the top hinge broke off, and because I don't have 3 of the same like closing hinges, it doesn't close all the way, and it's kind of dented down to where it doesn't close all the way. There's always like a little crack, or like it'll open itself. So when she was scratching, she would scratch, it would open a little bit, then it would close back. She would scratch, it would open a little bit, it would close back. So it was making a bunch of racket. So this was around 3 or 4 a.m. I'm not entirely sure. So I came out to see what was the matter, and I noticed that my lights are strobing by themselves. They're not like blinking at like a pattern though, they're just blinking. And I have it right here. I took a Snapchat. And the weird part about it is that we had literally just replaced a bulb. And what I did was I left the bulb there. I just turned the light off. And I turned it on later and it was perfectly fine for like months, I think. This was in 2015, so it's still working. Almost a year. This was in October. She was still freaking out even after I had turned off the light and was trying to go back to bed. It seemed like it took like 10 minutes-ish for her to calm down and figure out what was happening. And that could have just been like she was freaked out by the light. It couldn't have been that she sensed something different, but I just thought it was pretty interesting. There was another time that she sent me to a weird thing happening, and I took Snapchats of it. I wrote little captions. One day she got my attention pretty much in the same kind of way, and she basically brought me out all the way out to here, and she put me next to my coffee table, which had a hat on it. The hat was like literally like on the table, and I looked at her, and the hat was lifted up and then went onto the floor, and it was like upside down, like kind of like flipped off, like kind of like back flipped off. And I took Snapchats of it and like explained what happened to my friend in several pictures basically near like the thing. But basically where that little open space is where the hat was sitting perfectly, like in the space. Like, it was like jammed in there. It wasn't like able to fall off, I guess. And once it fell off, she looked at me and looked back at it, and then she retreated. Like, she like ran into my room as if she was scared again. Obviously, she kind of leads into other stories that I'm going to tell in part 4, which is going to be my last part for now, unless something crazy happens. But yeah, as always, my like page is up on Facebook. It'll be in the description if you want to ask me any questions. If you want to leave a comment or show some love and a like, that's cool too. If you want to subscribe to get a notification when I do upload my next one, feel free. So yeah, till next time. Oh, come on. All right, Biggie.